We are going to get started. Thank you so much for joining media. Some very, very exciting announcements in the reorganization of our basketball operations department, headlined by naming our head coach, Derek Fisher, also the general manager of the LA Sparks. So we really thank you for making the time today to speak with him. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Derek to give a brief opening statement, and then we will get to questions. Just like in the season, if you do have a question, please use the raised hand function, and I will call on people from there. This will be recorded and sent out. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Eli. I'll try to be as brief as you, which is sometimes challenging for me, man. But thank you, everyone, for taking the time this morning or afternoon, if you're on the East Coast. Really, appreciate just considering where we are right now. In the country and around the world with COVID and the pandemic, and what has been a challenging year in a lot of ways. Like to take a couple minutes to talk about women's basketball and changes within an organization. While I'm very excited and happy to be a part of this, trying to keep it all in perspective that there are much bigger things and more pressing things going on in our lives. So hope all of your families are remaining as healthy and as safe as possible, and just look forward to working with you all as we push forward and hopefully get to better days, with this pandemic. And so as we move forward, so thank you, but also want to make sure that I take a quick second as well to thank our ownership group, specifically Eric Holloman, for this opportunity to continue on this journey that we've embarked on the last couple of years. Eric has been tremendous to work with, and the opportunity to be the head coach of this team the last couple of years, and now these additional duties as general manager. I'm really thankful and excited to move forward in this way, and look forward to working closely with our ownership group and Eric in particular. This past year for us as a team and as an organization, Eric, myself, Michael Fisher, we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and having a ton of conversations at the end of the 2019 season, at the start of how 2020, and preparing to go into the bubble, and while we were there, and then since our season ended, and just really discussing where we are as an organization, where we want to go. And we realized that, this announcement is really just the beginning still, an early stage of what we hope to be just a restructuring and reorganization of how we do things, and the culture that we want to create. And it's been a process. It'll be an ongoing process. But we're hopeful that, we can really start to move in the direction that we see ourselves being able to as we go forward. In that now, by getting to this place where we can formally announce the reorganization, provide a little bit more clarity on, the roles and the positions that we'll each hold, it'll help us internally to be more effective, and also provide some clarity externally for folks that, may have questions or wonder how we're trying to address, the different priorities that we need to as a team. Eric Holloman will remain actively involved as, he's our governor, and leads our ownership group specifically related to the Sparks. So he'll still, have that role and play that role. And it's been great to see an owner that is active in team business and really wants to know and be involved. So he'll still be our governor, but he now will be named as CEO of our team, and he'll oversee all aspects of what we do in terms of business and basketball. Like I said, it's been a real treat to get to see how he works and how much more we've communicated over the last 12 to 14 months compared to the first year I was here. It's been great. Michael Fisher, who has served as our assistant general manager and really has been an invaluable piece to an integral piece to everything that we've been working towards. His expertise in the game, in the women's game, understanding a lot of key priorities that'll be important for us moving forward. Michael's going to be promoted to vice president of player personnel and really help to lead us in that area in terms of, how we make this new salary cap work, understanding the different ways that we need to plan in terms of our contracts and our structures, understanding the CBA, and we'll work closely together. But we have every confidence that Michael is very strong and passionate about his work, and we feel really good about the position he's going to be able to provide for us and continue to bring value. And for myself, just having the opportunity to extend and renew my contract as the coach of the team, which I was already excited about and looking forward to, but also the additional responsibilities of being a general manager. For me, it just represents an opportunity to continue to want to have both feet into supporting our players and supporting these women as they continue to push forward in making sure they have a place in this world. Women's sports oftentimes comes in last, and we need everybody to put both feet into doing everything that we can possibly do to create a better space for our players and our women. And it's becoming GM is an extension of that passion to be able to have a more hands-on role in our vision and how we want to do things, not just on the court in terms of X's and O's, but the vision for our culture, our operating system, the way we want to work together, how we want to collaborate, how we want our players to feel, the type of players that we draft, the way we develop those players, how we scout college players, how we view our international prospects, to be in a position to help lead us in all of those areas, including our staff and the folks that we don't often get a chance to see as much or work with as much, in terms of whether it's Eli, Natalie, and PR, our community relations departments, Natalie White and our folks on the business side, really working hard to expand on really all of us being aligned in a shared common purpose and vision for how we want the Sparks organization to run and to operate. And all of that should lead to our players feeling the efforts. It's all about them. So I'm just excited, as I'm saying here. And again, I wasn't as brief as I intended to be, but I wanted to cover a few things and make sure that I shared those thoughts with you before we open it for questions. But I'm really just, again, looking forward to continuing to work with Michael and Eric to help lead our team and work with our players more closely. I think this also sets up an opportunity to really be able to dive in in a deeper way with how to help them and how to serve them more than just being their coach. It is even more so my job to make sure our players are feeling like being here with the Sparks allows them to become as close as possible to the best versions of who they are as women and as players. And so that's part of our vision as well. So from there, I'll turn it back over to you, Eli, and we can open it for questions, and hopefully we can answer as many and make sure you get what you need here today. So thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Derek. We will go to questions again. Please use the raise hand function to get into the queue. We will start with Dorothy Gentry with the New York Times.
Hi, Coach. Congratulations. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
How much of a priority is it for you to retain the core of Naneka and Candace and Chelsea? With like 9 players up for new contracts next season. So how much of a priority is it for you to retain that?
Yes, ma'am. It is very much a priority for us to retain, not just that core in terms of their performance and what they've put out on the court. Prior to the time that I got here, having the championship history that they have together, but even over the last couple of years, getting to know them more closely personally as women and who they are, beyond just basketball, the leadership qualities, the character, the integrity that they each hold. It is vital that we find a way to make it work. They're free agents, so ultimately it's their choice. We won't be able to force them to do anything. Our goal should be to be able to have the type of conversations and communication with them that would provide a level of clarity of what our vision is for their time here and how we see this being the best place for Candace specifically, to finish her career playing for the Sparks and only the Sparks, being able to win more championships. And then for Nneka and Chelsea, as they move into this next phase of their careers and their lives, being able to expand upon the great legacy that they've already built and left in this game, but expand and expound upon that even more here in LA. So, those are our top 3 priorities, and we got a bunch of other priorities as well to try and, retain the consistency and just that corporate knowledge that we feel to be important to compete for championships again over the next few years.
We'll go to Brady Klopfer with SB Nation.
Hey, Coach. Congratulations. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you can expand a tiny bit on the relationship that you're going to have going forward with Michael and what your roles are going to be and how they're going to complement each other. I know during last offseason, I talked with both of you and you were both very complimentary of each other, and both seemed to imply that you had skill sets that were very complementary, that, his strengths and your strengths were in different areas of the game and different areas of team building. I'm wondering if you can just tell us a little bit more about what his role is going to be and how you two are going to work together.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Brady, it won't change very much from the description that you gave. We really view this as a collaborative effort, and we believe, similar to what many businesses and organizations are approaching things with, that, the walls and the titles and the desks are, they're figures, they're symbols for certain things, but in reality, we're all going to work together to be successful. And so we're still going to rely heavily on Michael's skill sets, the strengths that he brings to our group, and combine those and again, complement each other. The leadership that Eric holds as well in those conversations in terms of how we want to build our team, the type of players we want to draft. Michael has a very specific and keen eye and knowledge for those things, just due to his history and the work that he's put in. We're not going to value that less, because of titles. If anything, we're going to show even more value for that. And so we're going to still work very closely together. To be honest with you as well, I think it'll take us some time to find what works best, right? Like I think we all bring great things to the group and to this team. And ultimately, we need to agree to do what works best for our players, right? Whatever process, whatever systems, deciding who will have the ability to make decisions. We need to all work together to figure that out more clearly as we spend more time here. But it won't change very much in terms of us working to complement each other and do the best we can for the group. We've spoken ad nauseum for hours over the last couple of months as we've been getting to this point. So Michael and I are in a great place. We're really clear about how we want to do this. And I think for us is just continuing to, find that rhythm and then be able to communicate that to, to teams and agents and everybody so that they're clear. But I think internally we have a good feel for it so far.
John W. Davis with Winsider.
Good West Coast morning to you, Coach Fisher. Or GM Fisher. How you doing?
Good, John. I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. I had to get both of those in there. So I've been doing my own, I guess you call back of the napkin calculations where I try to, run down this this salary cap with the restrictions that are set by the league and the types of salaries that different players, you know, could earn and then might have to end up earning if they play on this team. How do you go about that? I mean, have you literally like taken out a piece of paper and said like, oh, maybe this person gets this much, this person gets that much, or how do you go about processing this? Because I mean, I think if we had the ability to, a lot of players would probably be getting max contracts on your team.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We for sure, in terms of our scenario planning for different versions of our roster, based on who we can partner with in terms of players that will re-sign at different amounts in terms of salary, and what that will allow us to do in terms of putting a team together to compete for championships. That's a part of the process. The new salary cap structure in terms of not just the total number in terms of the salary cap increasing slightly, I think a little over 30%, but player salaries have increased as much as 75 or 80%. And so it really puts a lot more emphasis on having to make really smart decisions about how you invest those resources in very specific players. The days of being able to give everybody a max contract at 117.5 or 119 or 112, like, those days are over for the most part, because you can't max everyone out and put together the type of roster that you need from a balance perspective. So it makes our jobs harder. To your point, we have a number of players that historically or even in the future have what we consider to be max contract value and or potential in terms of their performance on the court. But similar to other sports, there are only a couple players on the team that can demand those kind of salaries. And then you have to find a way to balance everything else out and still put championship teams together. Obviously for me personally, I've seen it done very well, on the men's side. And there's a reason why, a few superstar players get the big deals. Everybody else still does really well. And that always takes care of itself when the player focuses on the things that they can control. So our job is definitely really difficult with the number of free agents we have. And we've run through and will continue to run through a number of different scenarios to make sure we find a way to strike that balance. Where we are fortunate, I'll close with, in terms of your question, is that Candace, Nneka, Chelsea, Shanae, all of the players that we've spoken with so far and had conversations with, and I'm probably missing on a couple other names, they all just want to win. And I think they realize that we have a really special opportunity to do that with this core group. So we'll find a way to make it work. And ultimately, like I said, because of who they are as women, we're very lucky to be having negotiations and conversations at the right time with them.
Go to Howard Megdal with the next.
Appreciate it, Derek. Thanks for doing this again as well.
Thank you. No, appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. I'm curious, and you mentioned Shanae in that last answer, but you obviously have a roster. It sounds like you're looking to keep intact at the top, whether it's Nneka, whether it's Candace or Chelsea. And so you had in total, I think, 5 players with a usage rate of above 20%. That leaves relatively few shots to go around. I wonder, you thought Shanae just wants to win, but of course, there's also, well, how do you use a player like that, multi-all-star, somebody with the resume that she has? And I'm just wondering how you look at the way she fits in to the coach version of your vision for this team in 2021.
Yeah, no, great question. I love the connection to the usage rate for our group. That's one thing that I think is a strength and a positive of how we play basketball. Like whether free agents that are returning or free agents that we'll talk to that we want to come and join us, we share the basketball, we play together. All 5 players on the court are going to have a chance to eat and be successful. And that's what we want. And even for players that are coming off of the bench, for young players that have, gotten a chance to find out more of who they are in Sydney Weiss and Taya Cooper this past year and Christina Nigwe. When you come in the game, it's a game. It's a team game. Everybody should have the opportunity to be successful out there. So we view that as a strength. And as far as I know, our players really enjoy playing that way. Specifically to Shanae, I think because of she enjoys playing the game. She's a high energy player. She plays with passion. Defense is what she loves first. We joke a lot about her over helping sometimes and going to help people that she doesn't need to go help. But that's really what she loves to do first. Then she loves to rebound the basketball. And then from there, she's always played with great players. She came from a great program at Stanford. And obviously Tara Vanderveer, who congratulations to her on becoming #1 all-time in wins in NCAA women's history. Shanae's come from a program that is rich in balance and teamwork and everybody working together, and that usage rate being somewhat equal, even though you will have, star players for the most part, which she and NECA were in some ways at Stanford. So I think Shanae fits in, still perfectly well, as do a number of players in terms of the balance that we like to play the game with, and that we don't necessarily have to try and manipulate or manufacture or convince somebody that if you come to LA, we're going to pass the ball to you. You're not going to have to stress over shots because you're on the team with Candace Parker or Nneka Ogwumike or Chelsea Gray. Like, the way we play basketball, everybody gets a chance to be successful, and the numbers bear that out. We're not just going to tell somebody that because we're trying to sign them. If they go check the numbers, like you just said, they'll see that this is equal opportunity as long as you put the work in and you show us that you deserve to be out there and taking advantage of those opportunities.
Sabrina Merchant, SB Nation.
Hey, Derek, congratulations. Good to see you. Hope everything's well.
Thanks, Sabrina. You too.
I'm just curious, what the learning process has been like in terms of becoming the GM. What have you had to, study? How have you done the preparation? And has it been helpful at all to lean on potentially NECA and Shanae, since they were so instrumental in drawing up the new CBA?
Yeah, no, I'm a team guy, so I've always relied on, my teammates to, create or build any success that I've individually had. So, our team, in terms of Michael, in terms of Eric, NECA is obviously president of the Players Association and Shanae, et cetera, but also my own history as president of the Players Association on the men's side. A lot of familiarity with collective bargaining agreements, how they're negotiated, some of the key aspects and provisions of them. Different on the women's side for sure, but the book is just as thick. I could promise you that, in terms of the amount of language and things that exist there. But I'm not speaking or implying in any way that I know it all better than somebody else, but I do feel pretty confident and comfortable with where I stand now, and I'm always going to take a learning and beginner's mindset to different challenges and different opportunities, and that's the way I'll approach this. So I think also speeding up that ramp a little more over the last 12 to 14 months. From the end of our 19th season, that we've been collaborating in a lot of ways since then. We had to come together as a group and as a family, after significant change. So, this process has been kind of taking place over the last year, and now we've just formalized it in a way that we hope will make us even more effective.
We'll go over to Brendan Clean with Forbes. Brendan, go ahead. Brendan Clean with Forbes.
Sorry about that, Coach. On two Zooms here, you know how it is these days. I'm just curious to hear from you along the lines of Sabrina's question. Just kind of as you think back to when you first made the transition into the WNBA, I'm curious kind of what's on your mind right now as you take another step forward in your career in this league, as to maybe, is this what you expected might be what your path looked like? You know, what are some of the things that you've learned and absorbed over your time in this league that obviously, you know, you're committing even more to it now, right? So I'm just kind of curious where your mind's at in terms of some of that stuff as you now kind of make a step forward, like I said.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Brendan. I did not come in thinking or assuming this is where we would be, you know, after a couple years together. You know, the opportunity to first become the head coach of the Sparks, like I really excited, intentional about it. I love the game of basketball, regardless of who's playing it from a gender perspective, but I've always had even more respect for the way the women's game was played for over 20, 30 years now. I grew up watching it, had an appreciation for it always. I was telling my wife a couple of weeks ago, we were watching South Carolina, and I told her I had a Don Staley poster on my wall when I was younger. And that's just how much I've, you know, had an appreciation for it. As a guy that was never the tallest or longest guy on the team, I always had to approach the game from a very strategic and fundamental way. And I had to find angles and ways of doing things to be able to compete with folks that were maybe taller, longer, more athletic. So when I was younger, when I watched the women's game, I saw them approaching the game more along the lines of the way I played it than I did watching sometimes college and NBA players on the men's side. I knew I wasn't going to be able to do what I saw Magic or Michael Jordan doing. So a lot of times I would see myself in players like Don Staley more so than Magic Johnson. And so to bring all of that to now, like I did not see myself going from becoming the coach of the Sparks to now becoming the general manager and head coach of the Sparks. What I believe has made it something that I really want to do and am excited about doing is taking the love I've had for the WNBA and the women's game as a fan, becoming a coach and being a part of the WNBA over the last 2 years. I feel like I've seen and felt how important it is for us to not just talk about what we should be doing for women. This is what we should consider. We all should be investing more in women. We should put women's TV women's sports on TV more, et cetera, et cetera. We need to roll our sleeves up and actually get in there and do it. So it makes no sense for me or anybody else to complain about what we should be doing, right? Let's actually do it. And I believe that this presents an opportunity to expand upon a love and a passion that I've had for the women's game for a long time. And being in this position, I can get even more involved and be as positively impactful as possible for our players, for our organization, for the WNBA as a whole. And I just think that's a special opportunity that at this time, I didn't want to pass up. The ages where I have an 18-year-old daughter, I have a 14-year-old daughter. This has obviously been a tough year with the loss of Kobe and Gianna and Peyton Chester and Alyssa Altobelli. And there's a reason why the WNBA has exploded this year because a lot of people are finally starting to realize what we should have realized a long time ago. It's actually a pretty cool game. So all of that to say, like, I didn't see this 2 years ago, but I'm really thankful and excited to see it and be a part of it now. And again, hope that I can be a positive addition to this league and to our team.
Time for just a few more. We'll go to Kari Jones Jr. with the LA Sentinel.
Hey, how you doing, Derek? Congrats
Yes,
on your new position.
thank
Can
you.
you speak on just how you want to impact the team's culture and them outside of beyond the court?
Yes, no, that's a great question. I think we oftentimes think of sports teams, in terms of just on the field or just in competition, the X's and O's aspects, et cetera. But as we've seen in I think in business and a lot of the great companies that get the credit for top companies to work for, that especially right now with the market being up and down and all of these IPOs and all these different terms that get thrown around. The great companies, they stand out for more reasons than their stock price. They have great reputations for the little things that they've considered over the years, right? In terms of businesses that are intentional about maternity leave for women leaders, making sure that there's a level of diversity within their business and within their leadership, et cetera. Making sure that our players feel the value that we're trying to bring to them outside of just basketball. We're in the city of Los Angeles. We have some of the greatest companies. We're in one of the health and fitness capitals of the world in terms of sports performance and sports science. There are a number of additional values outside of just playing great basketball that we feel like we can add to our players. But part of that is listening to them, what is important to her, and then that's kind of where I can follow that lead and that kind of clue, so to speak, on okay, how do we work with her, right, to make sure that if she's on the Los Angeles Sparks, we're creating an environment and a culture that works for her. And that could be 12 different versions, even though we're all on the same team. And I think that's an important thing that we'll have to figure out, right, is that we can't just do it one way that works for Candace or works for Sydney or works for Maria Vadiva or works for Chelsea or works for whoever. Like it has to work for everybody, but in slightly different ways. Some of our players may be interested in finance, investing, venture capital. Some of our women may be interested in fashion and design. Some of our women, Candace has a budding and booming broadcast and media career. And so part of our responsibility is not to just help them make more shots, but like, what is it that she wants to do in life? Who does she want to be outside of basketball? And make sure that she feels that we care about her in that way as well. And if we can somehow help her put all of that together, we have a better basketball player, a better woman, a better leader. It all kind of works out for everybody. And that's my hope that I can play a part in helping us create that type of system.
Charles Hallman, Minnesota spokesman recorder.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Good morning to you as well, Charles. How are you?
Doing fine. Happy holidays, and hope everything's is safe with you and your family.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. You and James Wade are the only two Black men who are also coaches and general managers. You also, with Vicki Johnson, you now add 3 people who are coaches of color in the league that has majority of players are Black. I wonder if you can reflect on that. Also, just your role or your evolution from being a player to a coach to a general manager over the years. You talked about that a little bit earlier, but just, any more thoughts on that, just how you have evolved, especially in your last couple of years and coming into the league after being in the NBA.
Yes, no, I do, as you're saying, like I think about it often, the great sense of responsibility that I have, and that I think, in some ways we all carry, whether we know it or not. I think as a Black man and as a person of color, there's a heightened sense of responsibility that we have when we earn and are presented with opportunities to be in these leadership positions at the highest level. And so I'm thankful to be in that conversation and a part of it. And as we reflect on it, I think as a community, I believe it's important for us to make sure that we are fighting for inclusion without necessarily excluding. And in the WNBA in particular, I know for myself as a man, I have to be really conscious of the fact that, we're fighting for women. And as much as I want this opportunity, I also have a responsibility to make sure that a woman or a woman of color is also being afforded the opportunity to lead and be an executive and to be a head coach and to be the GM of a team. And so while I don't want to stand in the way of that, the best way for me to do that when this opportunity is now before me is to kill it, is to do well. Like as a young man of color, like you grow up knowing that your work product has to be twice as good or 3 times as good as your white counterpart or another friend or peer that isn't of color. That mentality has always been a part of the way I approach playing, the way I try to approach my job as a coach and now as a general manager. And that's not a negative thing. I believe anything that puts you in a position where you feel like you have to do better, you have to get the job done. That's what the greatest people have always felt about themselves and what they've created, in the world. So I do think about that often. And James, myself, Vicky, we're all very fortunate to be a part of this league. I think the WNBA and the NBA, to be quite frank, I think has always been a leader in terms of diversity and inclusion, but I think we're now pushing for more. And I think that's fine as well. I want to make sure I cover the second part of what you mentioned as well, in terms of the evolution. And I think that my parents instilled that in me a long time ago, that especially for a guy, again, that wasn't 6'7", 240 at the age of 17, that basketball I wasn't going to be able to play forever. And, even if I was able to play for any period of time, whether it's my education, the way I speak, the way I interact with people, being a person of humility, being someone that can work with other people, all of the lessons that I think parents all over the world are trying to teach their children, my parents really, really, really tried to instill those things in me. And that is what I feel like has been the catalyst to me being able to have opportunities, as my life has gone on, outside of just being a player, having the opportunity to be president of the Players Association, to be a coach, to now be a general manager, to always see myself as more than just an athlete or a basketball player, has been important. And I'm really thankful for my mom and dad and my family and those that have, helped me to be in this position. And then now I have to handle it in a way that I realize I'm just holding this and keeping it warm for the next person. I'm not going to be here forever either. Like this, we're supposed to share and grow this game, and I have a responsibility to do so.
Thanks. We have time for one more today. We'll go to Chris Camella with Nightfall Media.
Hey, Coach, how are you? Congrats on the new position.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, obviously there has been a history of coaches also being general managers, and I'm sure you've seen times where it has not worked out for some of these coaches. Obviously, at the men's game, it's been more documented. So 2-part question. One, how do you learn from those those sort of shortcomings? Obviously, it's hard to know what happened behind the scenes, and also, who do you look to for potential guidance in this now new position, this dual role, so to speak?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question, Chris. I do think there are some nuances and some differences between the men's and women's game that I think have allowed for this to be, on the women's side at least, more of a consistent approach to doing business, and that those people have still been able to be really, really successful. Like you said, on the men's side, without knowing the details, what really was going on internally, the way, ownership and management and everyone were choosing to work together on a daily basis. Like you said, it is more documented of it maybe not working out as well. And so I don't want to speculate necessarily too much because obviously it's not because people aren't smart and can't figure out, how to make things work. I can more so speak from experience, at least so far, on the women's side. Being able to observe over my first couple of years, it be done and handled very well and very smartly by, women like Cheryl Reeve in Minnesota, men like Mike Tebow in Washington, Kurt Miller in Connecticut. I think Bill Laimbeer has done a phenomenal job in Las Vegas, managing multiple responsibilities. And I think in some ways, due to how much smaller and tighter we are on the women's side with the number of employees, the number of staff, the number of players. We don't have a G League and a developmental league. We're just not as vast in how many different things there are to manage. I believe that it's something that on the W side, people have been able to find success with it. James Wade has done a great job in Chicago these last couple of years. And so we'll see. I mean, things are cyclical. And so there could come a time where on the W, it's not as smart to approach it this way. But right now, while it is positioned in this manner, I think, it's my job to make the most of it and do the best job that I can. And then also call and ask those people questions about the successes and the mistakes that they've experienced, and try to learn from those. And then also know that there are going to be mistakes and misses that I have in this job that are just a part of being in leadership positions. And I just have to be willing to learn from it, acknowledge it, admit it, continue to ask questions, continue to lean on the folks around me, and do the best job I can humanly do, knowing that, it stops and begins and stops with me, but it's not just about me. And that's the way I'm going to try to approach it.
Well, thank you so much, media, for joining us. We will send out a recording to today's press conference shortly. Thanks again, Derek. Congrats again on the new role as head coach and general manager. And I'm sure we'll be speaking with all of you very shortly.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Eli. Appreciate it, man. Happy holidays to everyone.